Okay.
All right.
We go,
So it is 7:04.
we hit continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, or got it, or yeah. Okay, so it's 7:04. Meeting is called to order. Today is January 13th, 2022. All right, we'll do our virtual roll call.
Gonzalez,
Here, wow.
Mesa Jack,
Here.
Hussein. Sorry, did you say something?
Oh, I did here.
Okay. Pelletier here, Puzo,
Here.
Flores,
Here.
Jost.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I will make a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from December 9th, 2021.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I just had one, under the financial report, it was marked that Mohammed was there to say an aye, but I don't think he entered the meeting when we voted on that.
I think that's correct. That was one note that I had made as well.
Okay, we'll double check that time and get those corrected.
Okay. Okay, so then we will be voting to approve the meeting minutes as amended.
Yep, got it. You want me to roll call that now?
Yeah, everything has to be a roll call when we're on Zoom.
Okay, Mesa Jack?
Yeah.
Hussein?
Yes.
Pelletier, yes. Puzo?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Jost?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, public comments, agenda items only. We have no public, it's just us. President's report, the only other thing I'll just, I will just offer a reminder for the North Suburban ILA virtual conference that is coming up in February. What are the dates again?
The legislative,
yes.
it's
thank you.
February 22nd, I believe it is, whatever President's Day is, it's usually on that
Yeah.
day.
So if you haven't, yes, thank you, the ILA legislative meetup, especially since Mohammed and Mark, you know, I mean, those things are virtually, I mean, they're doing as good of a job as they can, definitely. But if your schedule allows and you're able to, then consider joining in, open to all the trustees. So
It's actually
Just a little-
easier to attend via Zoom now instead of
Yeah.
in person. It was always and it was really early in the morning. So
Yeah.
it's a good way to hear, as I mentioned in my email, the priorities of the Illinois Library Association, and to kind of talk about any legislation that might be going through Springfield or getting ready to go through Springfield that could potentially impact libraries.
Yeah, so that was just a little reminder on my part. So, okay, next we'll go right into committee reports. So we do finance first.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the financial reports for December 2021. 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Just want to start with, I have the general, oh no, wait a minute. What's on top here? Yeah, the general ledger. Has everybody got that? Any questions on that?
We're actually in a really good position starting 2022. when the audit is complete, we try to make a transfer from, if there's a lot of funds left over into special reserves, but we always are a little careful because we have to pay our bills for the first 3 months or until the, tax revenues start coming in March. But I feel really comfortable where we're at right now for the start of the year.
If we take 2021 money to pay into 2022 because we don't have the money, do we then take that money and put it into the special reserve?
So what happens at the end of a fiscal year is we try to, like, if we talk about material selection, for example, we try to have the selectors stop purchasing things either the beginning of December, sometimes the middle of December. That's what we've done in the past. This year we stopped a little bit earlier because it's taking so long to get materials in. And we're on a modified cash accrual basis. And so basically what that means is that if we're invoiced for something and we receive something in a particular fiscal year, then it comes out of that fiscal year. So we try to pay as many of our actual 2021 bills in 2021. There are some things that carry over. And what will happen is, we'll take a look. I usually take a look at those things, and then the auditor takes a look at those, and they determine, which fiscal year they should come out of, either 2021 or 2022. Then, like, there's rules that they have to follow for that. And then typically we have some wiggle room because the auditors will give us a cutoff date for 2021 purchases. And usually it's in February. I think in the past it's been at the end of February. So then we've got some time, to look at everything and make sure that it gets credited to the right fiscal years. So we can't really carry over funds. It's not really like our personal checking accounts where we can just do, continue to do that. But we do have to have funds available to pay the bills because bills come in before we start getting tax revenues. So that's why we get that that kind of, a couple months after the actual end of our fiscal year before they actually close it out. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, because we're still paying 2021 bills.
Right. So in this last couple of weeks, Suzanne has been, and she's been paying the invoices, and Carlotta, you probably saw when you were in, she's marked the ones that have to come out of 2021 that are really obvious to us so that we can keep them separate for the auditor. And then the auditor looks at those as well.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't, taken from.
Yeah, there are some things that, for, again, if we use like purchase of books, for example, is a really kind of easy one to explain it. A selector could purchase, or they could order something and it could not come in until 2022. So those funds are encumbered. And so
Right.
that does happen at the end of the year. And that's why we try to, have selectors stop purchasing like in early December so that they have as little of that as possible, because we want everyone to start out with as much money as they can, right? So we want them to get their full budgets for the year.
Okay. So there's no more questions on the general ledger, right? The check register. Whoa. Any questions on some checks? I've already asked my question.
I was just gonna ask, the check for St. Martha's, is that for using the parking lot?
Yes. That's a monthly. You pay that every month.
Okay.
It goes up 3% every year.
Any more questions? Okay, wait a minute. The income statements. So we're still looking at 2021, right? Right.
So basically, once everything is said and done, we'll probably finish the year about 5% maybe under our budgeted amounts when we look at everything, as a lump sum. So I feel like we did pretty good given everything that was going on, particularly with renovation. I feel really, really positive about where we ended up financially. So.
But we don't see us paying the loan from on here. correct?
The only thing that we've paid towards the loan is interest only.
Mhm.
And that, I actually need to talk to someone from Fifth Third. We no longer have a personal relationship with any of the bankers over there. The people that we had dealt with to get the loan done and everything, they are no longer with Fifth Third. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I believe the actual loan payments start in June.
Uh-huh.
If I don't ask them to start
Yeah,
sooner.
I think
So,
you did
but
say
we
that.
will start, yeah, we will start paying back principal and interest on that loan this year.
Okay,
But we have not done that so far. It's just been interest only, because for a long time, we didn't take any money from the loan. It was only at the end that we, drew down the line of credit loan.
okay, okay. Are there any more questions? Nope.
I
Okay,
did just want to say too, you don't have the statement from PMA this
Oh, yeah.
month. I have requested it a couple of times. It's one of those things that I can't run myself. I have to have them send it to me, and they have not sent it to me yet. So hopefully we'll get that rectified for the future.
okay.
Okay, then we'll vote on the financial reports for December 2021. Who's
Yes.
Pelletier, yes. Puzo,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Jost,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes,
Masek.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So facilities, well, Pam's going to touch on the walkthrough under her report, so I will pause for that. I also pause on policy because we do have a few of those to approve a little bit later. So we'll go right into staff reports, director. So Pam, and you have the couple of bullet points of the walkthrough and the YS grand reopening, which I definitely want to give you ample time to talk about. But before you do, I definitely just want to hear how everyone is faring with this latest surge. Everyone's staying healthy. How is the staff? How is everyone holding up?
I think they're okay. I will admit, I have not been at the library this week. My mom is in the hospital, so it's been a crazy week. However, I do think that by and large, most people are doing pretty good. We have, I think I've mentioned it in my written report, reverted back to staff that are actually not on a public service desk. They're off desk time. A lot of that is now being, done work from home. So, and then we've obviously pulled all the programs and either canceled the ones that we couldn't make virtual again, or reverted back to virtual for them. We're hoping to only have to do that through the month of January. We have made our signage throughout the building a little more explicit about what happens if you don't comply with the use of face coverings policy. So we have a couple of patrons that we've had a few issues with, but by and large, patrons are fine. I think staff is staying healthy. We have a few instances. We have had a couple of staff that have gotten COVID, but we are fairly certain for most of them that they've gotten it outside of the library. So I still feel pretty comfortable with the protocols that we have in place. What we're running into is that people that have been exposed have to quarantine. And even though it's fewer days, which is very confusing, I will admit, trying to figure it all out. But, we still run into that where, oh no, there's no one here in the department, and just trying to figure out some of that scheduling stuff. But I think by and large, things seem to be going okay so far. I think more than anything, it's just mentally exhausting, as it is for all of us. And, we all want it to be over, but unfortunately it's not. And I think just kind of coming to terms with what that looks like. And I know I've told a couple of people that I find right now actually more stressful than I have at any time during the whole pandemic, just because there's so much, I just feel like there's much more uncertainty than there was in the beginning even. So, I mean, there was a lot of that, but, once we decided on something, even though things changed quickly, I felt like, we were getting more answers as time went on. And then all of a sudden just Omicron came and everything kind of exploded. So it's kind of hard to make some of those transitions, but I think everyone's doing pretty well. I mean, Suzanne, if you if you have anything to add about that, I mean, feel free to jump in. But you know, it's hard. It's mentally exhausting, as it is, like I said, for all of us. But I think that the staff is doing pretty well, all things considered. And most of the patrons seem very, you know, supportive of what we continue to try to do to keep everyone safe.
If there's anything that you can think of that you need our support with in terms of supporting staff in terms of mental health, and it's stressful for everyone for a multitude of reasons. So if there's something that you need from us in terms of support, then please let us know.
I will, and I appreciate, like, when we closed on the Sunday, I mean, that ended up working out really well because it snowed so badly that the previous day and stuff. But, you know, I think just that the board knows that, you know, we're trying everything we can to make sure that the library stays open. You know, but as we have said all along throughout the pandemic, that, you know, if we simply didn't have enough staff to either, you know, staff a department, or, you know, there were multiple people out in different departments, you know, recognizing that hopefully it won't happen, but, you know, just so that the board is aware that, you know, if it does happen, that we just can't staff the library, that we may have to close. But again, fingers crossed that won't happen. But, you know, we're seeing a little bit of that, not so much in some of our neighboring libraries, but kind of some of the smaller libraries, a little bit, you know, some of the south suburbs and that sort of thing. So it is affecting libraries that way. And it's just really, you know, it's kind of just, we just have to be ready to make those changes. And I would say that in terms of support, it's just, you know, if, you know, as long as the board understands that, you know, while we're trying really hard not to do that, you know, just in case it does happen. But thank you.
Yeah. All right. So then, yes, then again, once we, before we get into chatting about the walkthrough, which we did postpone, obviously, since we're meeting virtually today, any questions for Pam for her report or any of the other staff reports? I liked the webinar that Marlene attended, Burnout and Stress in case 2021 is as bad as 2020. I mean, you know, it's like a laugh and cry, laugh then cry, laugh, you know, kind of thing.
Yes.
So, but I'm glad that the staff are still able to do some of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously people aren't going to meetings in person too much still. You know, the advantage of that is that I feel like more people can take advantage of some of those learning opportunities or networking opportunities or webinars or programs and stuff. But yeah, it's a crazy time for all of us, I think.
Yeah. Though
Though I will say that I do have a couple of staff that professed interest in attending PLA. As you may know, PLA is only that's the Public Library Association for our new trustees. They have their annual meeting every 2 years. They have their big national meeting every 2 years. And this year it is in Portland, Oregon. And we do have a couple of people that will be attending. As of right now, that meeting is still slated to be in person. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of months, but you know, we're tracking that. So it should be fun. And I'm excited because the people that are going, one of our new librarians, Kaylin, is going to be going, and Rebecca, and then Melissa will be attending. And then, so I'm super excited for Rebecca and Kaylin because they've not had this opportunity, and it's such a really wonderful conference, and it's so, you know, kind of energizing, and you come back really excited and stuff. So I'm really happy that we can provide them that opportunity to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many people do you send every other year?
It depends. We really, you know, I asked the department managers during the budget process to tell me, you know, to poll their staff and indicate what conferences they may be interested in, and other, you know, both the national conferences for, you know, ALA and PLA, but then also the Illinois Library Association. Youth Services has a couple of conferences that are usually held like in Iowa or Wisconsin that they really like to go to. So I asked them to give me a list of potential interest in any of those things, so I can gauge when I do the budget, so I know how much to put in towards professional development. So it can vary from year to year. So like this year, there was no one from youth services that wanted to go to PLA, for example. So that's why there's adult services staff that are going, and then YS staff had wanted to go to something else. And then, some people said, like, for example, 2 years ago, I went to PLA, me, Jeff, and Edmund from adult services went to PLA. So, I'm not going this year, obviously. And, Edmund knew that he couldn't go again, so he might be going to ALA and that kind of thing. And then we had another librarian from adult services that was interested, that decided against attending in person for PLA. So like I said, it just varies from year to year, but it's usually during the budget process. So I make sure that I've got enough money in that budget line. And I try to look at,
yeah.
who's gone to what, if someone asks to go to something every year, I try to make sure that that opportunity is spread out more among the staff. So it just really varies.
Right, yeah, but I mean, because everybody said they were gonna go to,
Right.
well, I don't have enough money to do this. But
Exactly. Yeah.
I just wanted to figure that, get some clarification on that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Pam, under automation and technology,
Mhm.
are there any updates on OSG and their technology strategy for us? Is there anything they're working on to kind of put us on the track for 2022?
So right now, the big thing is, computer replacement, as again, I think I mentioned in my report, and then you do have a proposal that while it has been budgeted for, because I knew that we were going to be doing this, I want the board to officially approve. That's really our focus right now, because we're really at that point where they've done everything for our network infrastructure that they need to do. And so at this point, it's just keeping computers updated, keeping network, the network running and updated, and that sort of thing. So in terms of big projects, there's not a lot on the horizon because we've done most of them. So at this point, it is more maintenance, which is really what our goal was all along, is to get to this point where, all we were doing was upgrades and that sort of thing, instead of kind of the big process that we've gone through the past couple of years, especially now that the YS renovation is done as well. That probably was the last bigger thing that they were working on. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Does that answer your question, Lima?
Yeah. I was
Okay.
curious if there was
Yep.
anything brewing or if we're
Nothing major. And,
stabilized.
like I said, I met with Brian a couple weeks ago, and we were both kind of saying the same thing. It's like, wow, we're kind of running out of like projecty things to do because we've done everything. So, and I feel good about that, because that was absolutely my goal, is to get us here, that we were just maintaining the system and it was working the way it was supposed to, and that kind of thing.
Well, that's good news. That means monies can be directed elsewhere.
It's not cheap to maintain, but yeah, but yes.
How many years have we had this OSG?
We went with them at the end of 2018. That was when the IT person was let go. And I remember that, well, I remember it because when I let him go, but also it was right before we switched to CCS.
Yes.
So, yeah, so it was right at the end of 2018. So.
Oh, I was just wondering how long it took to do
Yep.
all that. Not bad.
So yeah, there was a lot to do, but I feel really comfortable with where we're at, and I'm really, I can't say enough good things about them. So I'm really happy with making that switch.
And they answer your questions?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay.
All right. Let's make sure we touch on the annual walkthrough.
So as Emily mentioned, obviously that was canceled for this month. Going virtual for this meeting was in keeping with what we did throughout the library, both in terms of staff meetings, programs, that kind of thing. So we're tentatively, if we're in person again in February, we'll do the walkthrough in February. I put it on the agenda just so that the board knew that I hadn't forgot about that or anything, and that we will get that done the next time that we can meet in person. And do, a walkthrough of the whole building, particularly for our new trustees. I think they'll find it interesting, and it's always useful, I think, for everyone to kind of see what happens behind the scenes a little bit. Because, while the renovation was wonderful, there's still some struggles with spacing, and, it's still an old building and that kind of thing. So I think that gives the board a better understanding of the challenges that we have. And then the grand reopening, obviously trying to schedule that during COVID has been interesting. But I was thinking about it the other day, and I made kind of an executive decision that I thought it would be nice to try to do an actual event and have people in and be able to, you know, maybe even serve food if we wanted or something. So we're planning right now to do a grand reopening event kind of thing during National Library Week. We thought that made a lot of sense. So that is whatever the week of, I think it's the week of April 9th is National Library Week. So it'll either be the, you know, Sunday before or the Sunday at the end of that week. So that's kind of our thinking now, because we're hopeful that we won't be in whatever the next variant is. But then that we'll be able to have people in the building, and that potentially we'll be able to, you know, serve food or have, you know, fruit punch or whatever. And, you know, also, if we are, not that COVID is going to disappear in 2 months, but it also gives us opportunity, because it is a little bit later in the year, that we could open up the patio doors, which would, you know, allow for more ventilation and stuff like that. So we're also going to be getting a plaque, similar, that lists the board members' names and stuff. And so our plan is to do the unveiling of the plaque and do a grand reopening of the WISE department during that event.
What was the date again? I'm sorry.
We haven't set the date. It will either be April 9th or April 16th. So
Okay.
I actually am meeting with Courtney on Monday. Poor Courtney has actually been home for a while. Her daughter tested positive with COVID, and she has young children. So the rules that apply to them and how long they have to stay home. So we anticipate that we'll both be at the library on Monday, though I think we're still going to meet on Teams no matter where we're at. To kind of hammer out a little bit more detail on that, and we'll pick a date then, but it will be one of those 2 Sundays.
Okay.
And as soon as Courtney and I decide the exact date, I'll forward that onto the board so that you can make sure that that day is clear for you.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So next is the per capita grant application and expenditure report.
So this is, again, for our new trustees, this is an annual application that we make to the state. And if the state library distributes funds to libraries based on the number of people that live in the town or your community or whatever your district, whatever the, you know, whatever boundaries you serve. So I just included the report in your packet so you could see how I answered the questions or how I addressed it. In the past, those of you that have been board members for a while, the state library did not require you to go through. The per capita report is based on, and what they're asking for is there's a document that's put out and it's updated every few years called Serving Our Public Standards, Public Library Standards for Serving Our Communities or something. I can't remember the subtitle. Last year, I believe they came out with a new edition, and because they had made significant revisions from previous editions, they wanted everyone to go through every single chapter, and they did that again this year. So I don't know what subsequent years are going to look like, but yeah, at least you get a feel for the kinds of questions that the state library is looking for the public libraries to answer. And then usually we get our per capita award. Good news for us, the population of Morton Grove did go up. I believe it went up by 8% to whatever the difference is, from 23,000 something to 25,000 something. So yay, that means we'll get more money. And usually if the state is doing okay, and I think they are this year, we should get that money late spring, early summer. It just depends sometimes. So that'll be nice to get that extra funds that I wasn't necessarily budgeting for because I was still using the 2010 census numbers. So, does anyone have any questions about, if you read it over, about my responses to anything?
No, but nice job with it.
Yeah.
It
Thank
looked-
you.
Yeah, very specific, Pam. It's very clear that.
So
you
I
are
thought I didn't get a chance to do it this week because it's been an interesting week, but I will make sure, because I don't even know if all of our the board members that have been on the board for a while even have it, but I think particularly for the new board members to get you a printout of the Serving Our Public document so you can see the list of the standards and the checklists that they have. I think that'll be really helpful, again, particularly for the new board members. But again, I don't even know that I don't know if the people that have been on the board for a while, I don't know if you've got copies of that document. I can't remember.
I don't know.
Feel like you might have printed something out in one year past along
Yeah,
with
I think so. It was, and I think it was a previous one, because what has happened in the past is they would focus on like 1 or 2 chapters, right? And so when I presented it to the board, I was usually able to print out just those couple of chapters. And so I think that may be what you're talking about, but I think the whole thing maybe hasn't been printed out. But anyway, this is a new edition, so I'll make sure that everyone gets a copy of that, because I think it's important for you guys to know the sorts of standards that the state library is setting. And, you know, so you can see that I'm not just making it up, that we're meeting these standards. So.
Don't worry, we believe you.
And then the expenditure report usually follows 2 years behind. And so if you look at the expenditure report, it's all empty except for the one line about construction, because for that year, when you do the per capita grant application, you have to indicate how you want to expend those funds, and you have like 18 months to expend them. So for that particular year, for 2020, we knew that we were going to put those monies towards the construction. So that's why there's nothing else in any of those lines. So all of that money went towards construction.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
All right, thank you. Computer replacement proposal.
So as I said, replacement of the computers is something that has been budgeted for already in the automation budget, which is part of the entire budget that the board approved. But because of the dollar amount to replace the computers, I did think it more appropriate that the board actually see the proposal for this and approve it. I think I've repeated myself, so my apologies. I also apologize for not having the list of computers that these will replace, but basically we're looking at the age of the computer. So I believe that everything that will be replaced with this purchase is from I think most of the computers that are probably going to be replaced here is like 2016, 2017. So, you know, unfortunately, as we become ever more reliant on technology and the programs and those kinds of things that staff use and, you know, and public computers and stuff need to have they have to be able to function correctly. So we didn't really have a good replacement plan in the past. So this will be the start. This is kind of the first big purchase of the computer replacement. So every year we'll do something like this so that we know that, okay, every year we're going to spend about this much money replacing some of the computers. So we don't get stuck like we did when we went with OSG and found out as we tried to upgrade things that we had to replace, you know, literally tens and tens of thousands of dollars worth of computer equipment at one time. So this is a way to keep us up to date with our technology, but not have it, you know, be such a big financial hit, you know, in one particular year. So if we spread it out just over time, it just becomes a life cycle replacement plan. So this will replace our oldest computers that are in the building, which, like I said, go back to 2016, some of them.
Do we always work with the same vendor, or was this bid out, or how did?
This is part of, this is not a dollar amount that is required to be bid out by law. The statute does require that if anything is $25,000 or more for like, let me take a step back because we're a little bit different. We are allowed to work with a particular vendor for something. So working with OSG to replace computers this way is entirely appropriate. But also this falls under the $25,000 threshold that is required, that would require us to go out to bid for something by statute. So typically OSG works with a number of libraries, and they work also with, and then also with other companies and stuff. So they usually, they make the best recommendations in terms of the hardware that is necessary to, you know, run the systems that we have. And then also because they purchase so many computers, they pretty much always get some really decent pricing, just because, you know, they're able to purchase in quantity. So.
Great, just curious, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll be able to get these computers, they're not sitting in a dock.
Well, you know, that's always the question, right? So
Or a chip.
we want to get them ordered as soon as we can. And I wanted this, I knew this was coming out of the 2022 budget, so I did want to wait, even though Brian and I had started talking about this back in October and November. You know, we'll get them purchased. I will sign this quote. I'll get this to him. They order them, and then, you know, it's kind of out of our hands. So, you know, fingers crossed, but you know, everything is running. It's not like we're waiting on something because, you know, there's dead computers all over, but it's just going to be, you know, when they come in, they come in. So yeah, fingers and toes crossed, Carlotta, but who knows, right?
All right, so, well, we did already talk about it, but I'll make a motion to approve the computer replacement proposal in the amount of $16,369.20.
I'll second it.
I'll second. Oh,
Thank you.
Sorry, who was the first voice that said they'd second it?
I was. It doesn't matter. That's, yeah, I was, Carlotta.
Okay. Just want to write it down officially the right way. Okay. Pelletier, yes. Puzo,
Yes.
Flores,
yes.
Jost,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mesa Jack,
Yes.
Hussein.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, the policy committee met last week and made a few changes, including one very pertinent one to the use of face coverings and then the sick leave benefits as well. So I'll let you guys take it away.
Okay, so we reviewed 4 different policies with input from Pam, and if you had a chance to take a look at the copies provided, really it was a few changes here and there, other than the red writing that Pam put in. I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. So if anyone's got questions, I'm open to get answers for you. But otherwise, you can see for yourselves that there were just a few minor changes, and I think we're ready for putting forward a motion for the board to approve the 4 policies as presented. Question? No? I think, Pam, you always do such a nice job making it very clear what is being amended, so thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I did want to just point out the sick leave benefits. Obviously, that's not a public policy. And this was a policy that the board approved at, you know, the beginning of COVID. Given that we're still in the midst of this, I thought it prudent to extend this, you know, especially right now. I mean, we actually have had we have had more staff that have been out regular sick than, you know, COVID sick. So, you know, just overall, we don't want staff feeling like they have to come in if they're sick, you know, for monetary purposes. And, you know, obviously it's even more important during a pandemic, but just because of the current situation that is why I asked to extend that, and Lima and Tamara agreed with me. So I just did want to say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. All right, I'll make a motion for the board to approve the patron code of conduct, the sick leave benefits temporary, use of face coverings, and volunteer policies.
I'll second it.
Okay, we will vote on those policies. Puzo,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Jost,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Carlotta, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
thanks guys.
Yes.
Okay. Mesa Jack,
Yes.
Hussein,
Yes.
Pelletier, yes. Thank you.
And I'll just say that our next policy committee meeting will be on April 7th at 4 o'clock. And Mark, you will be invited. So thank you for joining the policy committee.
All right, we will move on to communications. I hope everyone saw the really lovely response from the author for the 10 ways to hear snow. Like she just took the time to not only respond back, but like, here's, a family heirloom recipe kind of thing. Like, that was so nice of her. So,
Very sweet.
yeah. And
Well,
I
And special thanks to Suzanne for kind of bringing it to my attention as well, because she noticed that it had not been included in Courtney's YS report. So we thought it would be great for the board to see that. So thanks, Suzanne.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, that should be highlighted, definitely. It's like, you remember as a kid when you wrote to an author and they wrote back, like that was so exciting, but
It
that was
feels like our library is making personal connections with various authors, and that's such a positive thing. It's nice that
Yeah.
our library forms those kinds of bonds.
yeah, totally.
We may be little, but we're mighty.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. We did communications, public comments, non-agenda items. We still have no public. So that leaves us at 7:45. Our next meeting will be February 10th. And hopefully in person. We will keep you posted. But thank you everyone for 7:45, I said. Thank you everyone for coming. I know Zoom isn't ideal, but I think we thought it was best to align with what the library was doing in terms of programming as well too. So
And it is nice to see everyone's faces. Like that is nice.
yeah.
That's true.
And Pam, I hope your mom's doing better.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a rough week. So yeah, but thank you. It's she has multiple health issues, but she had a mini stroke basically, and there's been lots of whether or not she can have surgery and different things. But thank you. So
I'm sorry, Pam.
yeah, I know you're suffering with health of parents as well. Yeah, it's difficult.
My goodness.
It is. So, well, sending you all the positive healing vibes.
Thank you.
Everybody, stay healthy, stay safe. See you next month.
See you next month.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.